What is up, beautiful people? Jake is back. Thank God. Literally. This is all I've been thinking about. This is all I've been wanting to do. So I'm going to read some of the Law of One. I think this is part 7. I always go back and look where I ended up, where I ended last time, so I know what I'm doing, so I don't reread anything for you guys. But quick update. Thank you guys for having the patience because I'm going to school. What can I give you guys? So school's fine, like I'm not, like I said in that one video, I know I kind of went off and I was just heated, we all need to talk sometimes. So, you guys are amazing and you guys give me the best advice. You guys are like my counselors too, in a way. So I'm really happy that I talked to you guys. But school's fine, it's not school, it's the statistics and it's the force of the norms and the way that people want you to go about school, So my class that I had last night was awesome. I love that class. The people are cool. Yeah, I kind of feel a little uncomfortable, just a little different than everybody, but everyone's really awesome. And I feel open there in a way. Even though when I did explain all this stuff before the break, I gave too much information. And it was funny because the professor last night, he was talking about giving too much information out, and he was just looking at me. Kind of like, almost like we were telling each other, like, I was like, yeah, I know, and I kind of looked down and laughed, and, like, he smiled, so, because I know you guys don't know this, but I basically, some of you guys may know this from a month and a half ago, I told everyone in my class about the stuff and what I do and what I experience, and I think, because I'm someone where I don't have a filter, and I don't know how to not be 100% honest all the time, because once you do that, you don't really regret stuff, even though sometimes it does bite you back. Basically, I let off way too much information, and then so a lot of people were kind of like intimidated by this stuff, but whatever. The reason I did it is because my teacher talks about dimensions and spirituality and talking to trees and unconditional love, and like he knows about this stuff. So that's why I felt very comfortable to talk about it. But it's just the statistics, my library class is going to be easy. That's nothing to worry about. Interpersonal relationships last night was easy. It's going to be fine. I really enjoy that stuff, I like it. It's just the statistics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, like I said, I'm going to go tonight. I'm going to give it a second chance. And if stats doesn't work out right now, I'm going to drop it and I'm going to take it at the end of my school career for this bachelor's. I'll make it so that's the only class I have left to take. So then I can focus, for the 5 weeks that course is, just on that. Because, I'm in accelerated learning. I don't know if I told you guys, I don't have the usual 16-week courses. These are 5 or 6 weeks. So it's broken down. It's one night a week. But, for example, Tuesdays I got to go for almost like 5 hours, and then I got to go for like 4 hours on Wednesdays. So 2 nights in a row, 9 hours altogether, that's just a lot. So, I've had that struggle of I can't be on here 100% as I want to, and I'm really conflicted on that because I'm like, this is my passion. And even though a lot of you guys are telling me to not go to school, which, like, to me is not a good idea, it's, I'm trying to do this and get done with school, as fast as possible. Sorry, I got people texting me. So yeah, that's it. So, whatever. But basically, once Tuesdays and Wednesdays are done, I have like the rest of the week to do my homework. So I think how this is going to work, if I keep doing the school schedule that I'm doing, it's going to be, I'll give you guys videos after Wednesdays. So it'll be between Thursdays and Sundays is when I'm going to try to hammer out the videos. So we will see, but hold on one quick second. Jesus. Okay, so someone is basically telling me about all their dreams they've been having, and it sounds like they're being attacked. Hold on, I'm sorry. This is important. This is my dad. This is family stuff, so obviously that comes first. Let me do a meditation. Okay, anyways, so let's get back to this. And my other book came, I'm super excited about. So I told you guys once this comes, I would read this to you guys. So The Essential Enochian Grimoire, an introduction to angel magic from Dr. John D. to the Golden Dawn by Aaron Leitch, I believe it's called, Leitch. So, really excited to read this stuff. I mean, really, really excited. There's even a part I was checking it out because it came yesterday, and I was trying to pronounce my name in the angelical, they call it the angelical language. So if you say like Jake, not Jacob, but if you say Jake, it's Genunvegraf. So I sound like I'm speaking like German or something. That's so funny. I like that. Genunvegraf. Whatever. I'm gonna be excited. I even thought, I was like, I should make like a sentence of those words and like speak it, you know, because it's almost like a light language given to you, you know. So very interesting. But let me get a sip of some cold water, whichever one's the cold one. My bad. Let's get back into this. Alrighty. Session 17. Here we go. We are so close to finishing this book, guys. So close. You guys are troopers for staying and really going through all these. Okay, so before we communicate by answer, we shall correct an error which we have discovered in the transformation of our information to you. We have difficulty dealing with your time-space. There may again be errors of this type. Feel free to question us that we may recalculate in your time-space measurements. The error we have discovered concerns one of the arrivals of both the Orion group into your planetary sphere of influence and the corresponding arrival of emissaries of the Confederation. We gave dates of 2600 years for the Orion entry, 2300 for Confederation entry. This is incorrect. The recalculation indicates numbers 3600 for Orions and 3300. Okay, I may have to shut that window. And 3300 for Confederation entry. We communicate now. Thank you so very much. I would like to say again that we consider it a great honor, privilege, and duty to be able to do this particular work. I would like to reiterate that some of my questions may seem irrelevant at times, but I'm trying to ask them in a manner so as to gain a foothold into the application of the law of one. We are now in the fourth density. Will the effects of the fourth density increase in the next 30 years? So that's like around now, basically. We will see more changes in our environment and our effect upon... Will we see more changes in our environment and our effect upon our environment? The fourth density is a vibrational spectrum. Your time-space continuum has spiraled your planetary sphere and your, what we would call galaxy, what you call star, into this vibration. This will cause the planetary sphere itself to electromagnetically realign its vortices of reception of the in-streaming of cosmic forces expressing themselves as vibrational webs so that the Earth thus be fourth density magnetized, as you may call it. This is going to occur with some inconvenience, which obviously we're seeing right now. As we have said before, due to the energies of the thought forms of your peoples, which disturb the orderly constructs of energy patterns within your Earth spirals of energy, which increases entropy and unusable heat. So, you know, I mean, we're not making this easier for ourselves, you know. It's kind of like we are kind of like resisting, in a way. We are resisting, and we are making this harder for the energies to come about, but it makes sense when you look at the world. So this will cause your planetary sphere to have some ruptures in its outer garment while making itself appropriately magnetized for fourth density. This is the planetary adjustment. You will find a sharp increase in the number of people, clearly, as you call mind-body-spirit complexes whose vibrational potentials include the potential for fourth vibrational distortions. Thus, there will seem to be, shall we say, a new breed. These are those incarnating for fourth density work. Which I could be wrong, but I think that's the majority of us, you know. Keep it simple. There will also be a sharp increase in the short run of negatively oriented or polarized mind-body-spirit complexes and social complexes due to the polarizing conditions of the sharp delineation between fourth density characteristics and third density self-service orientation. Those who remain in fourth density upon this plane will be of the so-called positive orientation. Many will come from elsewhere, for it would appear that with all the best efforts of the Confederation, which includes those from your people's inner planes, inner civilizations, and those from other dimensions, the harvest will be still much less than this planetary sphere is capable of comfortably supporting in service. That's interesting. Is it possible by the use of some technique or other to help an entity to reach fourth density level in these last days? I don't know if I call it last days, but it is impossible to help another being directly. It is only possible to make catalysts available in whatever form. That's so true. And other people in this life really are the catalyst to driving us, because I believe that this is my example. It's so easy for me to live with spirit and live like by myself, but doing this with the world and everyone else is a true challenge. So we are catalysts to everybody else, So that's just how I see it. I could be wrong, but anyways. The most important being the radiation of realization of oneness with the Creator from the Self. Less important being information such as we share with you. We ourselves do not feel an urgency for this information to be widely disseminated. It is enough that we have made it available to 3, 4, or 5. This is extremely ample reward, for if one of these obtains fourth density understanding due to this catalyst, then we shall have fulfilled the law of one in the distortion of service. We encourage a dispassionate attempt to share information without concern for numbers or quick growth among others. That you attempt to make this information available is, in your terms, your service. The attempt, if it reaches one, reaches all. We cannot offer shortcuts to enlightenment. Enlightenment is of the moment, an opening to intelligent infinity. It can only be accomplished by the self for the self. Another self cannot teach/learn enlightenment, but only teach and learn information, inspiration, or a sharing of love, mystery of the unknown that makes the other self reach out and begin the seeking process that ends in a moment. But who can know when an entity will open to the gate to the present? And that's so true. Thank you. Can you tell me who was the entity before his... Okay, so a lot of you guys are going to like this. So if you've been watching since the beginning, these readings, this will, you may like this. So it's kind of like a reward, Can you tell me who was the entity before his incarnation on earth known as Jesus of Nazareth? I have difficulty with this question as it is phrased. Can you discover another form for this query? What I meant to say was, can you tell me if Jesus of Nazareth came from the Confederation before incarnation here? The one known to you as Jesus of Nazareth did not have a name. This entity was a member of fifth density of the highest level of that sub-octave. This entity was desirous of entering this planetary sphere in order to share the love vibration in as pure a manner as possible. Thus, this entity received permission to perform this mission. This entity was then a wanderer of no name, of Confederation origins, of fifth density, representing the fifth density understanding of the vibration of understanding or love. Did you say the fifth vibration was that of love? I have made an error. The fourth density being is that which we intended to say, the highest level of fourth density going into the fifth. This entity would have gone on to the fifth, but chose instead to return to third for this particular mission. This entity was one of the highest sub-octave of the vibration of love. This is fourth density. When I am communicating with you as Ra, are you at times individualized as an entity, or am I speaking to an entire social memory complex? You speak with Ra. There is no separation. You would call it social memory complex, thus indicating manyness. To our understanding, you are speaking to an individualized portion of consciousness. Am I always speaking to the same individualized portion of consciousness in each of these sessions? You speak to the same entity through a channel or instrument. This instrument is at times lower in vital energy. This will sometimes hamper our proceedings. However, this instrument has a great deal of faithfulness to the task and gives whatever it has to this task. Therefore, we may continue even when energy is low. This is why we usually speak to the ending of the session due to our estimation of the instrument's levels of vital energy. I would like to make a point clear now that I am sure of myself. The people of this planet, following any religion or no religion at all, or having no intellectual knowledge at all of the law of one, can still be harvested into the fourth density if they are of that vibration. Is that correct? This is correct. However, you will find few who are harvestable whose radiance does not cause others to be aware of their, what you may call, spirituality, the quality of the mind-body-spirit complex distortion. Thus, it is not particularly probable that an entity would be completely unknown to his immediate acquaintances as an unusually radiant personality, even were this individual not caught up in any of the distortions of your so-called religious systems. When Jesus of Nazareth incarnated, was there an attempt by the Orion to discredit him in some way? This is correct. Can you tell me what the Orion group did in order to try to cause his downfall? We may describe it in general what occurred. The technique was that of building upon other negatively oriented information. This information has been given by the one whom your people call Yahweh. This information involved many strictures upon behavior and premised power of the third density, service to self and nature. These two types of distortions were impressed upon those already oriented to think these thought forms. This eventually led to many challenges of the entity known as Jesus. It eventually led to one sound vibration complex, Judas, who I almost channeled the other day, just so you guys know. I almost channeled Judas because I was on the treadmill and I just got all this information and it just resonated with Judas. So, as you call this entity, who believed that it was doing the appropriate thing and bringing about or forcing upon the one you call Jesus the necessity for bringing in the third density planetary power distortion of third density rule over others. This entity, Judas, felt that if pushed into a corner, the entity you call Jesus would then be able to see the wisdom of using the power of intelligent infinity in order to rule others. The one you call Judas was mistaken in this estimation of the reaction of the entity Jesus, whose teach learning was not oriented towards this distortion. This resulted in the destruction of the bodily complex of the one known as Jesus. Then, if the entity Jesus was fourth density and there are wanderers on the planet today who came from fifth and sixth, what was it that Jesus did that enabled him to be such a good healer? And could these fifth and sixth density beings here now do the same? Those who heal may be of any density which has the consciousness of the spirit. This includes third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. The third density can be one in which healing takes place just as the others. However, there is more illusory material to understand, to balance, to accept, and to move forward from. The gate to intelligent infinity can only be opened when an understanding of the in-streams of intelligent energy are opened into the healer. These are the so-called natural laws of your local space-time continuum and its web of electromagnetic sources or nexi of in-streaming energy. Known then first the mind and the body. Then as the spirit is integrated and synthesized, these are harmonized into a mind-body-spirit complex, which can move among the dimensions and can open the gateway to intelligent infinity, thus healing self by light and sharing that light with others. True healing is simply the radiance of the self, causing an environment in which a catalyst may occur, which initiates the recognition of self by self, of the self-healing properties of the self. A lot of selves. How did Jesus learn this during his incarnation? This entity learned the ability by a natural kind of remembering at a very young age. Unfortunately, this entity first discovered his ability to penetrate intelligent infinity by becoming what the distortion you call angry is at a playmate. This entity was touched by the entity known as Jesus and was fatally wounded. So, Jesus beat someone's ass. Thus, the one known as Jesus became aware that there dwelt in him a terrible potential. I'm sorry. This entity determined to discover how to use this energy for the good and not for the negative. This entity was extremely positively polarized and remembered more than most wanderers do. How did this aggressive action against a playmate affect Jesus in his spiritual growth? Where did he go after his physical death? The entity you call Jesus was galvanized by this experience and began a lifetime of seeking and searching. This entity studied first day and night and its own religious constructs, which you call Judaism, and was learned enough to be a rabbi, as you call teach learners of this particular rhythm or distortion of understanding at a very young age. At the age of approximately 13 and 1/2 of your years, this entity left the dwelling place of its earthly family, as you would call it, and walked into many other places seeking further information. This went on sporadically until the entity was approximately 25, at which time it returned to its family dwelling and learned and practiced the art of its earthly father. When the entity had become able to integrate or synthesize all experiences, the entity began to speak to other selves and teach learn what it had felt during the preceding years to be of a worthwhile nature. The entity was absolved karmically of the destruction of an other self when it was in the last portion of lifetime, and spoke upon what you will call a cross, saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And forgiveness lies the stoppage of the wheel of action, or what you call karma. I think I said that in my last video, so cool. What density is the entity known as Jesus now? This information is harmless though unimportant. This entity studies now the lessons of the wisdom vibration, so he should be 5th density. The 5th density, also called the light vibration. In our culture, there is a saying that he will return. Can you tell me if this is planned? Now, before I read this, I want to kind of make an assumption. When I channeled, let's have some fun here. When I channeled Yeshua, Jesus, whatever you want to call him, Mr. Nazareth, when I channeled him, he said that people always ask that question, and that he will come when people basically start to learn what he talked about is inside them. So basically, when we bring out the Jesus inside us, that's really when, what he told me was when he's going to come. Is that when we I don't want to use just the law of one, but because we're reading this here, I'll use that. Kind of like once we all start to learn the oneness, and we all start to learn about the Creator within, that in a way is the metaphor or personification of his return. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like the return of the spirit acknowledged in the human on the majority scale. So let's see if I'm wrong. So I will attempt to sort out this question. It is difficult. This entity became aware that it was not an entity of itself, but operated as a messenger of the one Creator, whom this entity saw as love. This entity was aware that this cycle was in its last portion, and spoke to the effect that those of its consciousness would return at the harvest. The particular mind-body-spirit complex you call Jesus is as what you will call an entity, not to return except as a member of the Confederation, speaking through a channel. So, okay. However, there are others of the identical congruency of consciousness that will welcome those to the 4th density. This is the meaning of the returning. So, okay. Kind of correct, kind of not. Can you tell me why you say that the Earth will be 4th density positive instead of 4th density negative, since there seems to be so much negativity here now? The Earth seems to be negative. That is due to the quiet, shall we say, horror, which is a common distortion which those good or positively oriented entities have towards the occurrences which are of your time-space present. However, those oriented and harvestable in the ways of service to others greatly outnumber those whose orientation towards service to self has become that of harvestable quality. In other words, there will be fewer negative entities than positive entities harvested into the 4th density. Is this correct? This is correct. The great majority of your peoples will repeat 3rd density. How did Taras Bulba, Genghis Khan, and Rasputin, which I talked about earlier, get harvested prior to the harvest? It is the right privilege/duty of those opening consciously the gate to intelligent infinity to choose the manner of their leaving of 3rd density. Those of negative orientation who so achieve this right duty most often choose to move forward in their learned teaching of service to self. Am I to understand that the harvest is to occur in the year 2011, or will it spread out? You can tell by now. This is an approximation. We have stated we have difficulty with your time-space. This is an appropriate, probable, possible time-space nexus for harvest. Those who are not in incarnation at this time will be included in the harvest. If an entity wants to be of service to others rather than service to self, while he is in this third density, are there best ways of being of service to others? Or is there any way just as good as any other way? And that really, to me, is what I think this book is trying to do. It's trying to show us how to be of service to others and how to live into the law of one. So before I read it, I recommend you guys remembering this part, because this seems like a key part. So it's probably going to be common sense, though, to be honest. It's probably going to be love. The best way to be of service to others has been explicitly covered in previous material. We will iterate briefly. The best way of service to others is a constant attempt to seek to share the love, of the Creator as it is known to the inner self. This involves self-knowledge and the ability to open the self to the other self without hesitation. This involves, shall we say, radiating that which is the essence or the heart of the mind-body-spirit complex. Speaking to the intention of your question, the best way for each seeker in third density to be of service to others is unique to that mind-body-spirit complex. This means that the mind-body-spirit complex must then seek within itself the intelligence of its own discernment as to the way it may best serve other selves. This will be different for each. There is no best. There is no generalization. Nothing is known. I don't wish to take up extra time asking questions over again. Some areas I consider important enough in relation to the law of one to ask questions in a different way in order to get another perspective in the manner. In the book, and I don't know how to pronounce this, OAHSPE, OSPE, whatever, it states that if an entity goes over 51% service to others and is less than 50% service to self, then that entity is harvestable. Is this correct? This is correct if the harvesting is to be done for the positive fourth dimensional level. So what are we, 26 minutes? Okay. What is to be the entity's percentage if he is to be harvested for the negative? The entity who wishes to pursue the path of service to self must attain a grade of 5, that is 5% service to others, 95% service to self. It must approach totality. The negative path is quite difficult to attain harvestability upon and requires great dedication. Why is the negative path so much more difficult to attain harvestability upon than the positive? This is due to a distortion of the law of one, which indicates that the gateway to intelligent infinity be a gateway at the end of a straight and narrow path, as you may call it. So very linear. To attain 51% dedication to the welfare of other selves is as difficult as attaining a grade of 5% dedication to other selves. Thus, shall we say, sinkhole of indifference is between those two. Then if an entity is harvested into the fourth density with a grade of 51% for others and 49% for self, what level of the fourth density would he go into? I am assuming that there are different levels of the fourth density. This is correct. Each enters that subdensity, which vibrates in accordance with the entity's understanding. How many levels do we have here in the third density at this time? The third density has an infinite number of levels. I've heard that there are seven astral and 7 devaconic levels. So the Deva levels, which Una, the lady who I had the conversation with on Skype, she was telling me about the Deva levels, and I had no idea what those were. So here we go. Cool. Is this correct? You speak of some of the more large distinctions and levels in your inner planes. This is correct. I would even go so far to say maybe Agartha is one of them. I'm not sure. Who inhabits the astral and the Deva planes? Entities inhabit the various planes due to their vibration nature. The astral plane varies from thought forms in the lower extremities to enlightened beings who become dedicated to teach learning in the higher astral planes. In the Deva planes, as you call them, are those whose vibrations are even more close to the primal distortions of love light. Beyond these planes, there are others. And I did have a vision not too long ago, and I was completely in, I think, the fourth dimension. And it was weird. I was in a dimension of Earth that wasn't this dimension. And it was very beautiful, and it was pure. And I was meditating, But when I was meditating, my energy was the energy of everything else, if that makes sense. So for some reason, I just have a feeling that's where I was, because it was very different than this. I mean, completely different. Okay. Where am I? Okay, so are there 7 subplanes to what we call our physical plane here? You are correct. This is difficult to understand. There are an infinite number of planes. In your particular space-time continuum distortion, there are 7 subplanes of mind-body-spirit complexes. You will discover the vibrational nature of these 7 planes as you pass through your experiential distortions, meeting other selves of the various levels which correspond to the energy influx centers of the physical vehicle. The invisible or inner third density planes are inhabited by those who are not of body complex natures such as yours. That is, they do not collect about their spirit-mind complexes a chemical body. Okay, sorry, people keep messaging me over and over. Nevertheless, these entities are divided in what you may call an artificial dream within a dream into various levels. Sounds interesting. In the upper levels, desire to communicate knowledge back down to the outer planes of existence becomes less, due to the intensive learned teaching which occurs upon these levels. Is it necessary to penetrate one level at a time as we move through these planes? It has been our experience that some penetrate several planes at one time. Others penetrate them slowly. Some in eagerness attempt to penetrate the higher planes before penetrating the energies of the so-called more fundamental planes. This causes energy imbalance. You will find ill health, as you call this distortion, to frequently be the result of a subtle mismatch of energies in which some of the higher energy levels are being activated by the conscious attempts of the entity, while the entity has not penetrated the lower energy centers or sub-densities of this density. Is there a best way to meditate? No. At this time, near the end of the cycle, how are reincarnations into the physical allocated, shall we say, on this planet? Entities wishing to obtain critically needed experience in order to become harvestable are incarnated with priority over those who will, without too much probable possible doubt, need to re-experience this density. How long has this type of allocation been going on? This has been going on since the first individual entity became conscious of its need to learn the lessons of this density. This was the beginning of what you may call a seniority by vibration. Can you explain what you mean by a seniority by vibration? This will be the final question of this session of working. The seniority by vibration is a preferential treatment, shall we say, which follows the ways of the law of one, which encourages harvestable individuals, each individual becoming aware of the time of harvest and the need on a self-level to bend mind, body, spirit towards the learned teaching of these lessons. By giving them priority in order that an entity may have the best possible chance, shall we say, in succeeding in this attempt. May we ask at this time if there are any other brief questions? And I'm pretty sure it talks about the instrument thing again. Yeah, I'm going to skip that. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting just like... all these people messaging me. Come on, guys. Give me a break. Give me a chance. I was thinking last night that if I were in the place of Ra right now, the first distortion of the law of one might cause me to mix some erroneous data with the true information that I was transmuting to this group. Do you do this? We do not intentionally do this. However, there will be confusion. It is not our intent in this particular project to create erroneous information, but to express in this confining ambience of your language system the feeling of the infinite mystery, of the one creation and its infinite and intelligent unity. Thank you. I have a question here that I will read. Much of the mystic tradition of seeking on earth holds the belief that the... holds a belief that the individual self must be erased or obliterated and the material world ignored, for the individual to reach nirvana, as it is called, or enlightenment? What is the proper role of the individual self and its worldly activities to aid an individual to grow more into the law of one? The proper role of the entity is in this density to experience all things desired, to then analyze, understand, and accept these experiences, distilling them from the love light within them. Nothing shall be overcome. That which is not needed falls away. That's why I always say, don't worry about life, guys. If there's anything that's supposed to happen, it's supposed to happen. And if it's not supposed to happen, let it go, because that is not on your journey. Let it go. I know it's hard to let go and let God take over, but if you understand it more from this dimensional metaphysical perspective, it's really beneficial, you know? I mean, like nowadays I look at it completely different than I used to, and I actually have greater results. So the orientation develops due to analysis of desire. These desires become more and more distorted towards conscious application of love light as the entity furnishes itself with distilled experience. We have found it to be inappropriate in the extreme to encourage the overcoming of any desires, except to suggest the imagination rather than the carrying out in the physical plane, as you call it, of those desires not consonant with the law of one, thus preserving the primal distortion of free will. The reason it is unwise to overcome is that overcoming is an unbalanced action, creating difficulties in balancing in the time-space continuum. Overcoming thus creates the further environment for holding on to that which apparently has been overcome. All things are acceptable in the proper time for each entity, and in experiencing and understanding and accepting, and then sharing with other selves. The appropriate distortion shall be moving away from distortions of one kind to distortions of another, which may be more consonant with the law of one. It is, shall we say, a shortcut to simply ignore or overcome any desire. It must instead be understood and accepted. This takes patience and experience, which can be analyzed with care, with compassion for self and for other self. Basically, I would say that to infringe upon the free will of another entity would be the basic thing never to do under the law of one. So remember that. Never, jeopardize someone else's free will. That's the worst thing you can do. That's why, I always say power is the negative side of love. If you have love, you don't need power. You're going to have people. You're going to have that energetic influence. I guess, yeah, energetic influence, basically. So that's kind of how I look at it. Power is a very bad thing. So in that type of way, though, Okay. Where was I? Kind of lost myself. I'm sorry, guys. I have all these. Hold on. I'm sorry. I got literally 5 people messaging me and calling me, so I'm sorry. I guess this is what happens when you decide to be kind of like a role model for some people and help out and be an example. So can't really complain that I'm having my phone blow up. So I'm grateful to be of service to others. You know what I'm saying? See what I did there? So okay, the reason is unwise. Okay, I just read that. All things are acceptable in the proper time for each entity, and in experiencing and understanding and accepting and then sharing with other selves. The appropriate distortion shall be moving away from distortions of one kind to distortions of another, which may be consonant with the law of one. I think I just read that off. Sorry. It is, shall we say, a shortcut to simply ignore or overcome any desire. Okay, yeah, I just read all that, so I'm going to skip that. Basically, I would like to say that to infringe upon the free will of another entity would be the basic thing never to do under the law of one. Can you state any other breaking of the law of one than this basic rule? As one proceeds from the primal distortion of free will, one proceeds to the understanding of the focal points of intelligent energy, which have created the intelligences or the ways of a particular mind-body-spirit complex and its environment, both what you would call natural and what you would call man-made. Thus, the distortions to be avoided are those which do not take into consideration the distortions of the focus of energy of love light, or shall we say the logos of this particular sphere or density. These include the lack of understanding of the needs of the natural environment, the needs of other selves, mind, body, spirit complexes. These are many due to the various distortions of man-made complexes in which the intelligence and awareness of entities themselves. All right, that thing's driving me insane. Screw you, window. Not on my watch. Sorry if that's been annoying you guys. Okay. These are many due to the various distortions of man-made complexes in which the intelligence, infinity, and awareness of entities themselves have chosen a way of using the energies available. Thus, what would be an improper distortion with one entity is proper with another. We can suggest an attempt to become aware of the other self as self, and thus do that action which is needed by other self, understanding from the other selves, intelligence and awareness. In many cases, this does not involve the breaking of the distortion of free will into a distortion or fragmentation called infringement. However, it is a delicate matter to be of service and compassion, sensitivity, and an ability to empathize. Sorry, my lips are super dry right now. Are helpful in avoiding the distortions of man-made intelligence and awareness. The area or arena called the societal complex is an arena in which there are no particular needs for care, for it is the prerogative, honor, duty of those in the particular planetary sphere to act according to their free will for the attempted aid of the social complex. Thus, you have two simple directives: awareness of the intelligent energy expressed in nature, awareness of the intelligent energy expressed in self to be shared when it seems appropriate by the entity with the social complex. And you have one infinitely subtle and various set of distortions of which you may be aware. That is, distortions with respect to self and other selves, not concerning free will, but concerning harmonious relationships and service to others, as other selves would most benefit. And I think, speaking, because we're talking about Jesus, I really think that's what Jesus would say, basically. That's what I look at it as. Kind of like a Christ consciousness kind of way to go about life. As an entity in this density grows from childhood, he becomes more aware of his responsibilities. Is there an age below which an entity is not responsible for his actions, or is he responsible from the time of birth? An entity incarnating upon the earth plane becomes conscious of self at a varying point in its time-space progress through the continuum. This may have a median, shall we say, of approximately 15 of your months. Some entities become conscious of self at a period closer to incarnation, some at a period farther from this event. In all cases, responsibility becomes retroactive from that point backward in the continuum, so that distortions are to be understood by the entity and dissolved as the entity learns. Then an entity 4 years old would be totally responsible for any actions that were against or inharmonious with the law of one. Is this correct? This is correct. It may be noted that it has been arranged by your social complex structures that the newer entities to incarnation are to be provided with guides of the physical mind-body-spirit complex, thus being able to learn quickly what is consonant with the law of one. Who are these guides? These guides are what you call parents, teachers, and friends. You stated yesterday that forgiveness is an eradicator of karma. I am assuming that balanced forgiveness for the full eradication of karma would require forgiveness, not only of others, but also the forgiveness of self. And I think that's the hardest, honestly. It's forgiveness of self. So I'll stop here. You are correct. We will briefly expand upon this understanding in order to clarify. Forgiveness of other self is forgiveness of self. An understanding of this insists upon full forgiveness, upon the conscious level of self and other self, for they are one. A full forgiveness is thus impossible without the inclusion of self. So I will stop there. 44 minutes is long. I don't want to bore you guys to death. So we've got 173. Okay, so we should be able to finish this, guys, in like 3 more sessions, which I can get done probably in the next week. If I decide to do channelings instead, because I know more, I get more views from channelings and more people just like channelings, this is the true knowledge. Basically, I'll see how I work that out. But we are almost done, and this is only book 1. And if I'm reading off like all 5 books, man, it's gonna take so long. But I'm excited. Because this means we have material to constantly work with. So I'm constantly gonna be busy, which is great, because I'm one of those people where as soon as I have like all this time on my hands and I don't know what to do, like, I don't know, like, the times where I wouldn't work and didn't go to school and didn't do anything, those are like the worst times in the world, man. I need structure, I need something to do, or else I kind of fall apart. So I'm really glad that I have something to work with. That's awesome. So thank you guys, and thank you for being very patient. I know it's been like 4 days since I put a video up, but I told you guys, right now I gotta do school. Even though a lot of you guys disagree with that, that is what I'm doing for now. And if I decide school isn't working out for me, then I'll switch that. But it's like I said, it's not school. I see school as an investment. I don't see a part-time job as an investment, but I see school as an investment. And so it's just the stats class right now. That's the big issue. So, man, I got a lot of people messaging me, okay, I got to do that, and then I got to leave in an hour to go to stats. So wish me luck, everybody. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for the support. And after today, I have no more school this week. I have an online class, but that's here. So I should be back tomorrow, or tomorrow is Thursday, or Friday. So we will see. I'm trying to make Fridays my channeling nights. For some reason, I like that. I'm not one of those people where it's like I'm gonna go to parties and do all this stuff on the weekends. With me, it's like on Fridays I really like to spend my whole day for channeling. So I don't know why. It's just everyone has their little own structures of how they do things, and so that's mine. So thank you guys, much love. Thank you for being patient and supportive, and I will be back. So you can count on me, because this is my life, this is my passion, and I'm here to help each and every one of you. So thank you, and I'm grateful, and I love each and every one of you. Peace.